Best is Yet to Come is a podcast about dating later in life. It's co-hosted by Tonya Carter, Brenda Yamas, and me, Richard D'Ambrosio. We're all exploring dating from a fun but sophisticated, sexy, and smart perspective. And we're going to be tackling every issue that mature men and women face while seeking love, companionship, and yes, sex. So you can follow us on our private Facebook group and on our YouTube page. Please join us in this discussion about one of the most important things a human being can have, a relationship with a significant other. Welcome to episode 6 of The Best Is Yet to Come. We have over 100 downloads, so a little milestone this past week as episode 5 pushed us over that 3-digit mark. Today's episode is about how sometimes it's an illusion that there are plenty of fish in the ocean in these dating apps. And depending upon where you live, what kind of filters you may have, and frankly, just how you're dating online, sometimes that pool can feel like it vastly shrunk. And today we're going to talk about that whole concept of how do you deal online with this potential for large volume, but what's the reality really like? So with us today, as always, is the lovely Tonya Carter.
Hello.
The remarkable and effervescent Brenda Yamas.
No.
You're not muted, are you? Good. So, ladies, I didn't see anything news-wise this week. I did see a couple of couples in the celebrity news who are back at dating, and it's amazing to me how they use dating to get back at their exes. And I was telling everybody before we got on today, I was telling Brenda and Tonya that I'm still friends for the first time ever. I've broken up with a woman in some form, whether it's marriage or otherwise. And I actually have a friendship with that woman. And I don't think there's any ill will between the two of us. And Lisa actually volunteered to be on an upcoming episode to talk about how do you navigate with an ex. Before we get into the main topic, how do you feel about, the way that celebrities do this and the way that the paparazzi seem to want to stir up the cauldron of who is he dating now 2 weeks after they broke up? And does that have any relation to real life and any of your real life experiences?
My real life, no, because there's not money to be made. It's Bennifer, if Bennifer gets back together, he's been quiet. His career has been like, what has Ben Affleck been doing? I don't know. We know Jennifer has dated bukus of guys, but she's still active with music. Yep. She's still at the inauguration. She's at award shows. So she break up with who?
She's got a cable show right now, right?
She may. I
Jennifer
have
Aniston?
I don't know.
Lopez.
Neither do I.
Lopez.
I'm talking about Lopez. I'm talking about
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez.
Boy, am I out of it.
Bennifer, Ben and Jennifer.
Got it.
So now that she jumped out of one relationship and then next week she's with him. I don't know these people.
She was dating and engaged to A-Rod.
A-Rod.
Right.
And the week after, it seems like a week, after they divorced, she's booed back up with Ben Affleck. I think it's a publicity move. I don't know.
Yeah. I can't imagine dating and being famous.
So, look, one of my guilty pleasures is celebrity gossip.
You need to be the person who opens up these podcasts. You need to be the person who does that because
Some of them are interesting, some are not. But the word on the street is that A-Rod was out there. He had a reputation
for cheating on her,
for being a cheater, and I think
there would be no surprise there if he was.
Yeah, none. And I was going to say that.
Yeah, I think it was the embarrassment, right? The fact that it got on everywhere, that he was texting with this reality TV show star. She actually, which I cannot understand why she would get on the media and say, "Oh, I was texting with, an engaged ex-baseball player. Like, obviously, she's looking for...
Wait, let's stop this. Let's stop this. Yeah. You're saying you don't know why the side chick wanted everybody to know? Is that what you're saying?
But
like,
you know
hoes don't know their place these days. Back in the good old days, when old men were cheating and his wife, his girlfriend could live next door, and he got 6 kids, each one of them.
Yep.
That's my thing,
the outside
right?
lady did not even look at the wife.
I actually know that situation.
Oh my God, tell us about it.
No, I'd be
But I'm just saying, now you get this, these women are building their own, what is it, the Basketball Housewives or whatever these shows are, because they're the side chick. There's no more shame in being a side chick.
No.
Wow.
There's none. So
I want to go back to the good old days when there was shame to being the side person. You know, you had to come in the back door because you were the side person. I want to go back to those days.
Now, let's not go too far back because there was a whole lot more than side chicks going on. My voting rights might get taken away. Let's stay where we are. Let's just slut shame them. How about that?
Well, in the case that I know, it was a middle-aged couple, and the guy was literally sneaking in the back door when the husband was doing a police shift overnight. He was sneaking in the back door. Oh yeah.
Back to the timeline of when. So back to J-Lo, really. J-Lo and A-Rod. So the word on the street is obviously that he embarrassed her. And this had been going on by the time, I think her camp was telling her for some time that he had this reputation. And so by dating her, he was trying to raise his profile as being, whatever. Trying to get past some of that reputation. I think he did that. He cleaned up his image. He looked very like a businessman around her, and they all looked so happy. And he was so supportive. Every woman I remember were like, "Oh my God, I want someone that looks at me like A-Rod looks at J-Lo when she's singing." And he knew all her songs and all this other stuff. And look, I mean, let's not go there.
How do you cheat on J-Lo? I don't care who you are. You got J-Lo. What the hell are you doing?
I swear I say that men need variety in their lives. Yeah. And they just can't stick to the same one.
So Whoopi Goldberg said it best. And she said, she said before, why do you feel like you got the perfect package just because somebody has a good body and a beautiful face? I personally have seen some of the most evil bullshit from the most beautiful people. And there you got some fat, ugly chick over there. God bless her. She might just have to be sweet. But she's the sweetest person around, but she's not getting this attention because she doesn't have the whole package. So we don't know what it's like to be with J-Lo.
Obviously I've seen J-Lo sing on shows. I saw her sing at the Super Bowl. The only other real exposure I have to J-Lo is her stuff on Saturday Night Live. She's a genuinely funny actress.
Yeah, I think she's a sweet person. But
what's her reputation in the press? Does she have a reputation as being a bitch? What's her?
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of
it. I've heard that she's a little bit of a diva.
You gotta be.
Well, strong women are always bitches, divas, and
right. We're always labeled as something, either a bitch or a diva, right? But she still has, and I think she said it herself, that she still believes in love. She for some reason, I just find this one really hard. This last one really hard to swallow because it seemed like you were with this guy, and then 2 weeks later you are with this guy in the press. Like
which was intentional. That was
Oh, exactly.
No accident there. Which gets us back to our main point. You wonder about how, for J-Lo, she has no worries about how many fish are in the ocean. That is the least of that woman's worries.
But now she has more worries than we do because she has money, she has fame. And if, like what Brenda said, if A-Rod was looking for his come up, then she has to always worry about that.
Right.
Now, you might not know who MC Light is, Richard, but Brenda, you have to know who MC Light is. And she met her husband online, believe it or not. Famous rapper. MC Light met her husband online because, she's a celebrity, of course. And she said it was hard to find someone to date. So she just went online and just used her regular name. She didn't say anything about who she was.
Holy cow.
And the guy did not realize who she was, from what I understand, until, after she was comfortable with him and they just decided to meet. And she said, he's
Just
like,
an FYI.
I met MC Light online. Right, Richard. So we're not the only ones looking for love online. It's out there.
It is.
Yeah.
Do you think it's deceptive? Certainly the advertising for these websites and these apps makes it look like there's this endless stream of opportunity. How do you guys feel about the perception of dating apps? Brenda's shaking her head. You're too savvy at this point.
There is not that many fish in the sea, because I have spent the night swiping where I've seen the same picture come by three times, in 3 days. So
I'm going to disagree with that just a little bit, because there are plenty of opportunities depending on what your standards are.
I just need them to be on the island.
Well,
right, you do, but to what Richard said about the commercials, yeah, that's true. If you're just a person who you're on Tinder, a grinder, and you just want to, get it on, and you don't have any standards, they just have to be alive, just have to be breathing, and maybe not have a venereal disease, then yeah, there's plenty of opportunities.
I'm glad you made that point, Tonya, that not everybody who's listening to this podcast is saying, I want to find the love of my life. Some people just want companionship. Some people just want sex. And between two consensual people, I will say this over and over and over again, two consensual people who tell each other like it is, if all you want is casual sex, who am I to judge? That's your business, but the both of you better be upfront about it. I was talking with my ex-girlfriend before we got on today, and she lives in a small but large Connecticut city. And I live in the Hudson Valley, which is more of a exurb. And I was saying to her that, because she's back dating again and she is using an app. And I was saying to her, well, it's always easier to be in a place like where you are because the volume of people, it's the law of numbers. And if I say I want to be within a 30-minute drive of somebody, which is approximately 25 miles where I live, that kind of shrinks the pool quite a bit. And to Tonya's point, if my filter needs to get, out to 50 miles, even then I'm probably not going to have this huge slew of dateable prospects. So where I live is about an hour north of Manhattan on the west side of the Hudson River. So for anybody who's listening to the podcast, the west side of the Hudson River, south of where I live, is kind of like Westchester a little bit. Westchester is very, very upscale, ridiculous priced housing. People who, up until recently were probably commuting into Grand Central Station. So they've got great corporate jobs. On the west side, it's more cop land, firefighters, blue collar workers. We've got a lot of white collar workers who take the train into the city from here, but it's much more difficult to do so. So until you get down to Bergen County, New Jersey, the pool is a very different pool than where my ex-girlfriend lives. And if I did want to cross over to the river, I would be dealing with probably a different set of women, very frankly. I would be dealing with women whose, household income is probably 4 times what I make. Would they be interested in me? Because I'm not about money and I'm not about a really fancy car. I've got a very simple Mazda CX-5. I don't want a BMW. I don't want one. I don't want all the trappings of that lifestyle because I'm a very simple person. And so my pool, you would think there's plenty of fish for Richard. Nah, because of who I am and what I am.
I think you're selling yourself short with the women with money, because if a woman has money, she's used to dealing with the majority of the men with the money who are just complete assholes. Because they are literally buying their women.
Right.
But here you come with the compassion and sincerity and love. They would be with you because they don't need your money.
Thank you,
It's
Tonya.
only the poor woman who's looking for the man with the money. But if you, as broke as I am, in the name of Jesus, it might be enough with a minimum wage worker, because my lifestyle, as you're seeing, I can afford my lifestyle. Right. I don't have to have anyone come in. I'm going to travel 4 or 5 times a year. COVID has really messed me up. That's another subject. I'm going to travel 4 or 5 times a year out of the country at minimum because that's what I like to do. I work the amount of hours, or I make the sacrifice to do that. You know, one of my friends said this to me about, he said, women are so stupid. You go for the man with the money. He's just buying you. You're just an object. He's so used to just buying what he wants. It doesn't matter to him to take you out and spend $500-$600 on you for dinner, because that's what he was going to spend anyway on himself. So him buying you jewelry or something, that doesn't mean you need to be concerned about the man who has $5 who gives you 4 of them, and not a richer guy who takes you out and spends money, because that's nothing to him. That's him living his lifestyle. So, Richard, I think you're selling yourself short. I would say go for those women in those big houses.
Well, and I'll tell you, but then you do start to talk about other things. So, for example, let's take houses. I have become such a minimalist after my divorce. I left so much stuff at that house. And in divorce, you have Exhibit A, and you list the things that you should take because they are actually yours, and the things that you want, and that's where you fight. We had very little fighting between the two of us for that, because I wanted so little. I don't think I ever want to live in a house, a home that's bigger than 1,800 square feet ever again. If I can find myself a loft building somewhere, open floor plan, where I can box off a master bedroom for me and my, significant other, and the kids come over and they're going to understand, sorry, there's couches and pull-out beds and a big, beautiful kitchen where we always get together at night. That's it. I want simple cars like you, Tonya. I want to travel. I want my money invested in travel. And hopefully I'll become a more charitable person. I'll have more money to give to charities. But other than that, I was telling my kids, my next big purchase is probably going to be 2 kayaks. I want a woman who wants to get in a kayak with me on the Wallkill River here in the lower Hudson Valley, park one car at one end, one car at the other. And for 3 or 4 hours, we just paddle along, checking out the blue herons. And that's the girl I'm looking for.
She's in that mansion, but once you got to get her to fall in love with you, she's going to sell that whole house. You guys are going to be in a 1,200 square foot tiny home with a big kitchen in the backyard. And your kayaks are going to be bigger than your front, than your living area.
Well, we are.
You just want to be happy. I think, like you said, it's the trappings of success. Once you're with someone who treats you well, I don't think all the other stuff sort of matters. It just sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just sort of goes away. It does.
Brenda, you're in a particularly weird situation. Before you went to Puerto Rico, you were living in Mississippi. Was it any better, worse to be dating there? Were there plenty of fish there?
Oh, no.
I would have thought you could get a down-home country boy in Mississippi. No?
As it is as progressive as a city in Mississippi can be.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Gotcha.
Plenty of professionals. They have a HBCU there. My boss was
Ole Miss?
No, Jackson State, Jackson State University is the HBCU. Mississippi State is about 45 minutes out, I believe, and then you have Ole Miss, which is further north. Okay. So, which meant there were a lot of minorities, a lot of minority professionals. The most expensive. College educated. The most expensive county was right where I worked, Madison County, Mississippi. The average home in Madison County is probably in the $200,000, which is a lot for Mississippi. Yeah. But that's the average. Okay. But in spite of all of that,
slim pickings.
Horrible dating, like the men that were, we used to joke about, do they have all their teeth? Do they still live at home with mom and them? And then to top it off, Jackson and Mississippi was like the leading. Mississippi is the top. I just read something that Mississippi is the first or second of the states with the highest incident of STDs and HIV.
I was going to say, I think that was the one where I read about where there was a couple of guys on the college campus and how rampant it was on the college campus. If I'm sure that it was almost pandemic levels on that college campus.
Really?
Yes.
And the thing was, here we go back to down low in the southern city, because there was so, much sex that was going on. If this is correct one, because I saw a documentary and I believe it was at that college, that, people can't be who they want to be. And so there's just, and then when you go into a Bible Belt, when you're in the Bible Belt, it's okay for, I'm not even going to get started again today, just let it go. But when you're in the Bible Belt, you just have to hide who you are.
Yeah.
If it's not what the mothers of the church has decided is okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I knew about the dating in Jackson because people were like, be careful, this is not a good place to date. So
that made you say, I'm not going to date at all?
Absolutely. I was like,
you put your chastity belt on?
Well, what I did is, I was still swipe, but that was not happening.
And the most difficult part is there is no way to know how many adults are willing to disclose during the courting period, or whatever phrase you want to use. Hey, I have something. I have never contracted an STD. I did date a woman briefly, who on our second or third date told me, she said, I need to tell you something, because, we're getting deeper and deeper into this. And she relayed to me that she did have an STD. The most common one. And, she said, I take medicine for it and I'm managing it and blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's not a deal breaker. It's something that's going to be difficult to manage because you don't know if you're going to be, having an outbreak or something. I said, let's just keep going. I said, we'll get to that point. When we get to that point, we'll just have to be more planful. It just can't be like spontaneous. Until that moment, I had never looked at the Plenty of Fish and said to myself, oh, wait a second. A portion of that pool may be a situation that I'll have to manage like that. Brenda, I don't even think like that now. I don't ask. And it's probably stupid of me.
I don't ask, but if I was ever serious with anyone, I would be like, hey, I need you to bring a full set of
blood tests,
a full set of tests, because I think it's only fair.
Yeah.
But they could be HIV positive. I know this from a friend who has even messed with my my mind anyway, who is saying that that if you're HIV positive, but your viral loads are low, you could go with this person, take a blood test or saliva test or whatever, and come back and no traces and shows negative. Now, the doctor may say, okay, your viral load is low, but if you just go to a clinic, it just shows undetected. Right. So, what do you do? But to what you said, Richard, I do see some people who say, who would say, I'm zero diseases, negative everything. I'm going to show you my results, and I'm going to see your results, and we're going to need to take testing together before, which is great. Now, if the dude got a passport, we might be able to work some things out, because you got to put it out there. But, I think, and my friend says this to me all the time, that I'm too closed-minded, because if I hear any disease, I'm just out. I can't work with it. I'm sorry. Even before my kidney transplant, I was like, ooh. But to hear you say, to say, Richard, this is just a common disease and we can work around it. I really applaud you, because I'm like, ooh, what you got? Oh, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
For me, it would have meant wearing a condom.
Like the one that Leslie Nielsen wears on Naked Gun, because that's the one I'm going to need.
But but at what point, let's be honest, Richard, at what point do you say, I'm tired of wearing a condom? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that going to get old?
I would have had to have read up on it a lot more. I used to read up on all of this because I used to teach religious ed at my church in Highland Mills, New York. And I used to teach a sexual awareness class after the official sexual awareness class. So I was astonished. They were seventh grade, eighth graders actually. And their level of knowledge I don't know if they're not teaching health in school anymore. Their knowledge of the facts of sexuality, STDs was in the tank. And they're at 13, 14 years old, starting to get all those urges. And I'm like, what are we doing here that we're failing these children?
One of my coworkers, her best friend, had a boyfriend who was horrible to her. So my coworker comes to work like, I cannot even believe she's going to marry this dude. Like, she just asked me to be a bridesmaid and she's planning this huge wedding. And so I just don't understand why she's going to marry him. And so Lucia, her family's from Sicily and she's a firecracker. So she's going off on her friend, just like, blah, 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 blah. He treats her like shit, blah, 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 blah. And so she comes to work Monday and she's like, oh my God, he gave her herpes.
Yeah.
And so she does not want to go the rest of her life, especially in this good, Catholic family they're in. Saying that, she have to explain to the people that she has herpes. And now she's almost 30 until, to them, that's like you're an old maid.
Yeah.
So with her approaching her 30s and, not being married and dealing with a guy who was crap, she just had to marry him because she said it was a lesser of the two evils.
Oh.
Now, if she didn't feel like she had to explain to anyone that she had herpes. Isn't that something?
It is. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's sad. All these societal norms you got to go along with.
She shackled herself to somebody who's not even a nice person because she was concerned she could never find a man who could try to work with her on that.
And to add to that, not only did he give you the herpes, but of course he got it from cheating on you because he's crap.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah. I mean, I was already doing an evaluation of this woman in terms of listening to what she was telling me about, and I realized how she caught it. It was somebody else who was sleeping around a lot.
Yeah.
And she trusted that person, and that person betrayed her trust. And there were other things that broke up the relationship. But it wasn't that, and who knows, maybe I would have found out more information and said, wow, this is going to be really difficult. I don't know.
I don't think it has to be difficult. I can agree with you. It's definitely a situation you can work around. Even with HIV, people are marrying.
The lesions are not always there.
You can work around it. If anything can be worked around if you're willing to put the work in.
Yes. And maybe that makes a relationship more intimate because you're having to talk about this rather than just jump in the sack whenever the heck you want. And I'll be very honest. While spontaneous sex is fantastic, when two people are talking about it, it's just more mature, and it can sometimes be better because there's that intimacy at an emotional level that just takes the physical to the next level. So when it comes to the way our brains work, I think we grab more confidence when we think the pool is larger. Do you think that most of us are kidding ourselves about how big the school of fish is? Should we realize going into these dating apps that because of things like this, because you're going to meet someone who may have an STD and now you've got to be concerned about that, so the pool shrinks, Brenda, I don't know, what the population was there, but for me, population's an issue. I'm going to see a lot of the same people very quickly because there's just fewer women in my ballpark that are available. It's just not that big an area. If I was in New York City, it might be different. And funny enough, even with the filters, I'd still see women from New York City.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I seeing a woman from New York City when I'm saying I don't want to go that far south?
Why do I have people in Africa popping up on me when I said 50 miles?
That too. But, and then what some people do, I know, is they go on multiple apps thinking, okay, not everybody's going to be on multiple apps. So now the school of fish that I'm fishing in is bigger. Any thoughts on all of that about maximizing the volume of fish, or is that the wrong way to think about it? Is it to think more sort of homing in, have patience, wait for someone who wasn't there this month to join next month? What's your take on all that? No take.
I think we talked last week about, on the last episode, how we have to be intentional.
Mhm.
So if you're dating to be intentional and you're actually trying to establish a connection with people that you're matching with, excuse me, then it makes it a little bit, how would I say, you probably will get a better quality out of it instead of just swiping. I have been guilty of just sitting there, maybe if I'm bored, and just swipe, because I'm just looking. I am not being serious about, you know what I mean? I'm not being intentional about what I'm doing. And then it feels like, oh, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done that because maybe I missed something that could have been a good thing more. Or maybe I matched something that I really wasn't even interested in because I was just swiping with no care in the world. So I think if you're more intentional about it, I think you will find that there are more opportunities out. Does that make
I think
sense?
it's out of our hands online. Because here's the reason why. You're in Puerto Rico, Brenda. Rich is in New York. I'm in Georgia. We're as comfortable as we can sitting here every Friday night. It's 7:00. I'm like, what time is it? I gotta go start the Zoom because it's 7:00. We don't have shit to do on a Friday at 7:00, right? So in the Zoom, while we're talking, I'm thinking, you know what? I think we're gonna go and have some fried fish and fry some tomatoes after this Zoom is over. And then I'm going to look at Succession on HBO because, season 3 is coming out. I got to watch all of this. And I'm so excited to be on the Zoom. I'm excited about my green tomatoes. I'm excited about Succession and maybe a glass of Moscato. And the only reason the three of us are even connecting and talking about dating is because we're doing this podcast. Otherwise, Rich would be in his house comfortable with DJ. You're over there dealing with your daughter. I'm over here FaceTiming my daughter. She's like, Ma, leave me alone. I got stuff to do. Stop calling me. Get a boyfriend. So the pool is there. It just may not be online.
Yeah.
We're all stuck in our respective homes. But
remember, there's also COVID, right?
We're all home. We're not online. Our people are not online.
Right.
I'm Brenda,
we're only going to do one more podcast in this series on online dating. Next week will be about when do you go offline? At what point do you grow comfortable enough to say, okay, let's stop with the back and forth and the photos and whatever else. Let's go meet at a coffee shop or whatever. So we'll be talking about that. After that, I'm grateful that we're moving away from it because I agree with you. I think being offline, and to Brenda's point a little earlier, just being yourself and living your life and having a great life, that's where the magic will start to happen. Could it happen online? Absolutely. And we're going to have a very lovely guest in early November who actually met her husband online. They are happily married 7 or 8 years now, 2 boys. And she's an extraordinarily funny woman and a school teacher. So there are some happy stories, there are some success stories. But I tend to agree with, some of the sentiment that's going on right now, which is maybe online should only be a part of your strategy. And we'll talk about where else can you go? How else can you find someone in the big pool of fish that's not necessarily on Plenty of Fish?
I think we should approach it as we were job hunting, right?
I hate looking for jobs.
But it's something about when you're looking for a job, right? You are willing to connect with people in your network, right? You're willing to talk to people. You're willing to reach out to people, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily interested in that particular person, but maybe interested in maybe getting out and being a little bit more social, right? And maybe attending more things that you probably wouldn't do otherwise. I'm a homebody. If I have to choose between being at home watching Netflix and going out to a meetup, I'm going to be home watching Netflix probably. So maybe it just takes that if you're serious about it. I'm sorry?
Is this Brenda the mother who wants to be home watching Netflix? What did Brenda before you had your daughter? What was single Brenda doing? If you didn't have your daughter,
but single Brenda had obligations with the military, right? So it wasn't like I could just do anything I want.
You really have never had what the average listener has had.
No, never had the college years, the party years. When I grew up in Puerto Rico and I was in high school, I loved going out. But even then, I was a high school that was the state president of a big student association. So I was always around the island. And I signed up for the Army when I was still I was 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just signed up. I had just started my senior year. So I was busy.
And I'll tell you, if you think about the dating cycle as a young person, you've got your high school sweetheart, then maybe you break up, you go to college, you get your college sweetheart, you do or you don't stay with them, then you get your first job, then you've got money, a car, a job. And now all of a sudden you've got this world that could introduce somebody to you at a young age. And you've got the ability to go to the beach for the weekend because mom and dad are taking care of the mortgage. And you had none of that, Brenda. None of that. I mean, high school was it.
High school was it. I spent my 18th birthday at basic training in the Army.
Wow.
I remember that. Yep. And I was busy. I was working. And there was a period of time when I got to my first duty station later on in Houston where I started to we would go to drinks after work, and we would go around the corner and have drinks, and I was really coming into my own, and that didn't last very long because you move. Every 2 years I was going somewhere else.
How often did you deploy to a battlefield?
Only once.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably not a heck of a lot of dating going on when you're in a battlefield.
That's prohibited.
Yeah.
Actually, sex is prohibited. Drinking alcohol is prohibited. So the only thing you can do is literally work out, eat. And the only thing I took upon, the only thing I could do that.
Legend, did you hear Legend just moaned when you said there's not a lot you can do? I think he understands.
Yeah.
He gets it. He's like, oh my God, mommy, how did you do that?
He's just like a baby. Look, he has something in his mouth looking at me like, da-da-da-da. You don't pay attention to me. I'm going to eat it.
I feel bad that you've been placed in a situation where if all things were equal, having a companion who's not a lunatic, who's not introducing some kind of detrimental situation to your life, that you'd probably want that. You'd want somebody who could sit down and watch a show with, or help you take care of your daughter, or go for a walk with the dog, wouldn't you?
Oh yes, but then he has to go home.
But then he has to go home.
Right, I was going to say,
we got to have the townhouses side by side.
But I'm wondering, Brenda, you don't want to date, because I get it. At your age, I didn't want to date, but I did have a little Miss Dr. Feelgood who would come by.
Oh,
so you're okay with Dr. Feelgood coming by, just not dating, Dr. Feelgood was like a ghost in the night. Nobody knew him but me.
What, did he show up at 1 a.m. so the neighbors couldn't see?
Well, neighbors may have seen him, but my daughter, my daughter would be gone. So I was just having a good time because I was at home all day,
Right.
Listen, my
daughter, when she was in school, that was like,
got to take care of business, darn it.
Yes, yeah, let me get up and get you out of here. What time? Oh shit, it's Saturday. You don't have school today.
Hey, listen. My daughter goes to sleep at a certain time and she wakes up at a certain time. And there's a 2-hour window after and before that.
Exactly. You can do the treat. Yeah. But that's all you need is 2 hours, maybe.
Yeah, that's about right.
Y'all just don't have to meet everybody that I know, Everybody don't have to know who I know.
Right.
So there's dating and there's having your sexual needs taken care of. I'm all for that if I don't want to date.
I have friends
with benefits.
Yeah, but I have friends that I have a very spiritual friend who I can have conversations about spiritual growth, philosophy, things like that. I have other friends that I can talk to about entrepreneurship. Like I have a couple of friends that I can talk to about some of those things and can have better conversations that I can expect to have with a mate, maybe. I could never talk about that with my ex-husband. So
Well, but couldn't you don't you think you could find someone who you could have those conversations with?
And have an orgasm too?
And have an orgasm. Have the
Well, but it's more than two, right? Can we talk about
orgasm also, not two as in just two, but also.
Two orgasms.
Yes.
That's just starting the party. Orgasm insurance. We don't know
like the first 10 minutes, Rich.
Right.
Right.
Two as in also.
There are other things, right?
So I've been lucky. I've been blessed in that the two long-term relationships I had, intellectual conversations, introducing me to things I was not aware of. Lisa, the woman I just most recently dated, we used to go to this Reggae Festival every year in West Danbury, Connecticut. And the two of us would have such a blast, just jamming out, swaying to the music. Of course, everybody's got the cannabis out. So we were probably getting a little bit of a contact high. Yeah. But I mean, festivals. And then we could also, she would come to me with issues at work or job openings. And she had a confidant to ask these questions to and say, what do you think? Can I email you my resume before I send it to this job opening? And I mean, having something like that, that's my ideal, is having someone. And then I'm going to be very honest. The sex was incredible. It really was.
Okay, Lisa girl. Okay.
So the natural question is, why are you two not together?
I mean, at least sexually. You don't have to be in a relationship like in love.
But then see, look at that example, Richard, right? Like even with all those amazing things, right? There's always something that didn't allow the relationship to continue.
There are some things that are big enough that all that stuff couldn't overcome. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And so, right, it's at this stage of the game is what can you live with? Yeah, what can you live with? And I'm just not ready, I think. I think it's just at this stage, you kind of know what you want. And if it doesn't fit in that parameter, no, I'm not saying that you have to be 6'5".
I'm not. I'm only 5'9", so I'm ruled out.
Are you really 5'9", Richard?
I'm only 5'9".
Are you seriously 5'9"?
Hey,
I'm
you're taller than me. That's all that matters. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, as long as you're taller than me, I'm good.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Okay. 5'3", so
5'5.5", and I need
the half counts. The half counts.
Absolutely.
The half counts.
That was always a fight in the military. It's like, how they will measure me, and I'm like, no, you better put that half in there because I need it. That's like 3 pounds extra that I can be. I need my weight and my measurements. But no, I think it's just at this stage of the game. I don't want to say that I'm not willing to settle, but I'm not willing to settle. You know what I mean?
You're not desperate. You're comfortable.
Well, I am until that person comes along that can be the person that I can talk to, I can confide in, can protect my daughter and I. That's very important, that I can trust around my daughter, right?
Yes.
That's huge. Because I've been in the situations that you were in, Tonya, as a young child, right?
I hate using the phrase mindset because it's kind of ambiguous at this point. It's overused. So when I look at the two long-term relationships I've had since my divorce, even though they weren't quote unquote a success, meaning they're not still active, I look at those and say, okay, what this all did was helped me refine what I know that I want. And being so close on two separate occasions with two fairly different women makes me feel like that pool of fish, that plenty of fish, there's definitely somebody in there, and it's just a matter of time. And so I've walked away from the discontinued dating relationships and said, that to me is boding well for the future.
So I say those relationships were successful.
Yes.
It does not have to end in marriage. You learn from the relationship. You grew from the relationship. And Lisa is still your friend. So you have a friendship.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be binding. till death do you part to be successful. There was some success there. Yeah. Now you have a better understanding what you are looking for, as Brenda said, and what I'm not going to tolerate it. So to me, it's a success.
And I think when you take that mindset, that's what keeps me so in the game and optimistic. I've been telling people one of the reasons why I'm not really actively dating right now, I'm open to it. And there is a woman who has entered into my life unexpectedly. And we're having wonderful phone conversations. And we're hopefully going to finally have some time together, face to face after all these years. The reason why I am optimistic is because I know I can do this. I know there are great women out there. And I think I'm discouraged at times when I hear stories by women about men. I do believe the pool of men who are intelligent, willing to dedicate the time to being in a relationship, dedicating the, whatever you want to call it, the heart, the emotion, and saying, well, I got to deprioritize me because my girlfriend's mother is in the hospital or something. Looking for that guy may be a smaller pool than it might be for the female pool, for a guy looking for that. And I just think, unfortunately, that society that has told men this is the way you need to be, this is the way you need to present, and they bought into it. And now we've got we've got way too many guys walking around acting like idiots. But I know so many good guys. A really good friend of mine broke up with another friend of mine, started dating, found an incredible guy who I just think is the most fantastic person. I'm so glad she found him. They're a great couple. And I look at the two of them, and they're older than I am. And I say, that's why I keep dating. Because look at the two of them. They found a match.
So it's going to be out there.
I think so. I'm still very optimistic. And I just want you two to be too, because even though you're strong women and you're happy where you are, I just think, when you've got somebody else who can always, I always told my daughter, you should always be happy with your life. The person, and I told the boys too, the person you bring into your life adds to the happiness.
I agree.
It's not that person makes you happy. Don't go looking for somebody to make you happy. The first woman I dated introduced me to Italian red wine, and that's all I drink now because it's delicious. And she taught me these things, and Lisa taught me other things. She got me back out on the dance floor very actively. I dance more readily now than I used to because of Lisa. And, that's success, as Tonya said.
It is a success.
Ladies, we're just about at the hour. Any last words on mindset and how a listener can remain optimistic, especially when you're dating online and you're starting to see the same men or women cycling through your feed and you're like, oh my God, I've seen this person 5 times this week. Boy, the pool must be smaller than I ever thought. Any tips for them?
Mindset wise, you really need to be happy with yourself. And you need to be happy with keeping your own company before you can attract anybody and they can complement your life. Amen. And so I think that is one reason why that prevents us from just jumping to the first thing or just acting like we're desperate or settling for something that we just don't deserve or less than what we deserve. So I'm very happy with myself. Yes, would I love help? Of course, I'm raising a child by myself. Yeah. Tonya, how hard that is. And you too, Richard, you have your kids.
He has 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we all want help. Yes. I would love somebody to come wash the car, take out the garbage, mow the lawn.
What you need is a handyman.
Right?
Is there like an Angie's List or whatever? What was the name of that app that gets your handyman? Maybe that's the new dating app for women and men.
They
just get somebody in the house to fix stuff and you check them out.
Can they come back at 2:00 in the morning?
Yeah, they can.
Very possibly. You'd have to ask.
For an extra fee?
And it may cost you $75 an hour.
Now we're getting into some sketchy illegal activities.
Can you imagine you find a really great plumber on these lists and you say, hey, what about a dinner tonight? A little, booty call. Yeah, go on the app and schedule an appointment.
Hey, hey, whatever works. Whatever works. But I think, Richard, to your point about the mindset for me is even though I issued this dating app thing that we should do this or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to go and create and you were saying, Richard, I'm going to wait until January. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to go on there. So I had to reassess my mindset and ask myself, am I where I want to put the time and energy into dating someone and being on this app and calling these people and talking to them? And the answer is no, not right now. And not that I'm running from anyone. If it happens organically, then it happens organically. And maybe it's because I'm on this damn Bumble and it's a full-time job. I mean, this every 24 hours, I can't do it. It's too much. I
agree.
Yeah. It's just like, God bless. But to your point, Richard, I do think I need to be willing to put the time into it. Because the one guy I met did say, I'm ready for us to meet. And before I could say, yeah, this idiot said, what you cooking tonight? I'm like, nothing. If we're going to meet, we're going to have to go somewhere. You're not, no.
Right. He immediately thought he could come to your house, now know where you live, and have you make him dinner. Wow.
It wasn't happening.
Wow. That is just beyond forward.
Rented a hotel suite with a kitchen. No, I'm not cooking for you.
No.
It would even been better if he said, come to my house. I wouldn't have gone, but it would have been a little bit better.
Right.
And let me cook for you. Anything. Let's go out here and find a hot rock and throw a piece of steak on it. Anything instead of I'm going to come to your house and what are you cooking to cook for me? It's not. But just thinking about it, I'm going, it's a lot going on. I'm closing out the year. You guys know how my fiscal year actually runs January to December for my company. And there's just a lot going on that I want to do before the end of the year. And I'm thinking, if it doesn't happen organically, I may invest a couple of seconds, a day or a week or whatever on this dating app. But I sort of agree with your initial assessment, Richard. This is going to have to wait just a little bit longer.
So for everybody who's listening, if you can, first of all, please join the Facebook group that we have. It's got that yellow background. If you look for the best is yet to come, it should be really easy to find. Just fill out the quick questions and make sure you follow our rules. And then you can start responding to our comments and our questions. We want to put out to everybody as we're moving away from these dating apps, what are some of the best creative ways offline to find someone who's got an affinity to something you enjoy, whether there's hiking meetup groups. I've seen them on the trails here in the Hudson Valley. There are singles meetup groups where you just meet at a bar and it's just a group of people meeting together. And it's interesting because when I was when I was actively looking to date, I was a part of a couple of meetup groups. I was paying to be in there, and there was a dialogue going on way before everybody showed up somewhere. So you kind of got to know people. And I saw when I first joined, a lot of the people knew each other. They were calling each other by first name, and they knew elements of each other's lives. And, didn't you have that wedding coming up next weekend? And you could see there was like a group dynamic that was starting to happen that was building know, like, and trust. There you go, Brenda. There's the marketing language.
What is it? Know, like, and trust?
Know, like, and trust. It's how you bring a sales leads in to sign the deal and get the ring. And you could see that there are places that perhaps are just as good, if not better, than being obligated to be on an app every day. And we're going to start migrating into that. If you can tell us some of the things that have worked for you, and I'll be putting it out in other forms to other people, that'll be the subject of a lot of our discussions as we head into the holidays and into the new year. So please, we love active listeners. They help us expand our knowledge. And as you can see, the three of us, not that we're stuck in ruts, but we have a way of thinking. And in introducing to us a new idea, who knows? You may help us find our love match. Ladies, thank you for another wonderful Friday night. I think I'm going to go and walk my son's dog because that's what a single guy does on a Friday night, all alone. I treasure your friendship. I treasure the approach you have to life. And I'm just so glad that if I'm going to be on this lonely journey, I'm on it with you.
Bye. Next Friday night.
Bye.